Good afternoon. This is Tom Alexander. It is Sunday, October 5th. This is the U.S. stock market update for the week beginning Monday, October 6th. And it is pretty much business as usual in the indices. I could say pretty much the exact same thing today that I said last weekend. I keep thinking the market cannot continue to go up at the rate of change that it has been going up since the end of April. And that implies that at some point we're going to have something resembling a pullback that lasts more than 6 or 7 hours and covers more than less than 1%. We've had extraordinarily vertical markets, meaning across all the indices since that April low. It would be highly unusual for us to continue at this rate of change. All the indices, however, are, from a price action perspective, confirming the bull trend. Now, let's talk about price action for a minute. When I say price action, what do I mean? Everybody uses that, seems to be the term du jour, price action. I view price action through a very, very specific lens, and that is the lens of an auction market. I trade auction market principles. It is irrefutable that we are trading auction markets. Auction markets behave a certain way because they have to. I'm not going to get deep into the weeds and all this stuff, but I don't care what your brand of magic is or your interpretation of price action is. I will tell you one thing that no one can argue with regarding price action and regarding how to apply price action in terms of a practical trading perspective. If a market is making higher highs and higher lows in the time frame you're trading, you want to be long. If it's making lower lows and lower highs in the time frame you're trading, you want to be short. Now, it's pretty much that simple. It's not always easy, but it is that simple. And that applies across any time frame you trade, from whether you're trading a 1 minute, 5 minute chart intraday, or you're swing trading using a 30-minute chart or daily chart or whatever. So the initial signal that something has changed and that we may be on the verge of something resembling a retracement of larger degree than any that we've seen since the April low is if the market begins making lower lows on at least the 30-minute time frames. And when I say the market, I mean all the indices, not just one, not just like the NDX did on Friday with the New York Composite going straight up or the Russell going straight up. If and when, and it's when, not if, we do have some sort of retracements in both in price and time, you'll have all the indices participating. So if you're looking for that signal, that initial signal that something is developing to the downside of significance, it's going to be when all the indices begin making lower lows and lower highs in the 30-minute time frame. That's just a fact. Okay, so there are some things here to take a look at that are a concern if you're thinking about the health of this particular trend. Now, that's sort of nebulous. It's a guess. We're always guessing when we're looking at divergences among and between the indices or between the indicators and things like that. Always use price action to confirm any opinion or narrative you or anyone else has, because that's where you're making or losing money. It's in price action. So let's take a look at the charts. I'm not going to spend too much time on the charts this weekend. You can always go to the website, alexandertrading.com, click on weekly updates. It's free. Click on the date for Monday, and you can see all the charts that I'm going to show you here, and all the levels are on there. I'm going to go through these real quickly now, just to sort of a flyby. Okay, let me make sure we're seeing. Yes, we are seeing. Okay, this is the SPX. All-time closing high, uh, New York Composite, all-time closing high. Russell, all-time closing high. That's something that hasn't happened in years. So all the indices are confirming the uptrend at the moment. Equal weight S&P, all-time closing highs. You notice the theme here. Uh, NDX all-time weekly closing highs, yet another one. Now, Friday's price action was odd, out of sync with everything else, but it's been that kind of market. Did I do the Dow? Dow new all-time closing high. So you get the picture. You know, the indices, are they overdue for something? Is everybody looking for something to the downside? Yes, and I'm in that camp. However, as a trader, I have to remind myself, you can't wish the market, you can't go short and just wish and hope it's going to go down. You have to have some sort of signal. And that signal, again, I can't think of anything more objective than if the market begins making lower lows and lower highs, that's your signal that something could be developing to the downside. Now, this is what is most vexing to me at the moment. I'm sure you guys have seen this, but I'm going to reiterate it here. This is VIX, the volatility index. The S&P and VIX have now been up in tandem consecutively 5 consecutive days, 5 straight days. I don't think that's ever happened before. Now, not only that, and I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, really. Uh, if you go back over here on September 11th was the low in VIX as the market was higher. And since September 11th, the VIX has been up and down, but it's generally moved higher as price has been moving higher, not just the past 5 days. This is since uh, September 11th. So VIX typically is an indicator of concern, of trepidation in the market, its level, and it quite often, when it begins to rise, is a precursor to some sort of a decline. That's typical. Now, this has not been a typical market. What if VIX begins to fall? Well, if VIX begins to fall, it might be signaling to us, well, the market is not concerned anymore about anything. Not that it has been up to this point, but there's something underlying that's lifting the VIX here for sure. But if VIX starts to drop, maybe the market actually accelerates higher. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I think that would be really odd. However, again, regardless of your narrative, regardless of what we think about the relationship between the indices and in particular right now the SPX and VIX, that it should go lower, you have to let price confirm that. You have to let that market, that index that you trade, any index that you trade, begin making lower lows and lower highs. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, guys, I hope you have found value in this. If you did, please subscribe. Please like the video, make comments. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Have a great week, and let's see what Globex brings when it opens up here in a few hours. Have a good week, guys.